Hello, everyone. Welcome to Faculty Spotlights for the College of Professional Psychology at the Chicago School. I'm Lance Garrison, Dean of the College, and I am joined today by Dr. Jenine Chiles, Associate Professor of Clinical Psychology for our PsyD Clinical Psychology program in Chicago. Welcome, Dr. Chiles.
Thanks, Lance. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Can you maybe share a little bit about your background and how you came to be a faculty member at the Chicago School?
Sure. Try to do the quick version. I came to Chicago to go to graduate school myself, so completed all of my training in town, and I spent the first 10 years of my career in public health, working for the Chicago Department of Public Health, first in community mental health, and then in HIV/AIDS primary care. After doing that, I supervised some students while I was there, really enjoyed that, wanted to make the leap to training. So I went to work at a university as an internship training director, began teaching, and started a college counseling center while I was there. After being at that university for 10 years, it imploded upon itself.
Oh, goodness.
And you may know, and fortunately, because it was in Chicago, very fortunate for our students, the Chicago School graciously took in a good number of our PsyD students, and I got to join them. Came on as faculty and did a little bit of work with their internship consortium at the beginning.
Wonderful. So what areas of teaching, research, or clinical practice are you feeling particularly passionate about these days?
I feel really fortunate to teach diversity. So I get students in their first year, we get them all year. I love teaching this. And Chicago is such a great place. It is so diverse.
Yeah.
And because of my background of all of my training and work here, right, I have a lot of clinical material to pull from for them. I am really fortunate, I think, because I get them first year, and then third year I teach intermediate practicum seminar, and I get to see all of that teaching kind of come to life, right? As students come in and present their cases, this is always the framework, right, that we're thinking about. They pull that, we teach the addressing model, and they use it every year that they're in school. So we see that. I get to see as they talk about their therapy cases, how they're thinking about all of the systems that impact their clients, all their individual and cultural diversity factors, the differences between the student clinicians and their clients. So that is really cool. I also see it in my dissertation work, right? So I have students, a lot of those concepts really resonate with them, and then they begin to think about, their own communities and wanting to have them represented in their research. And there's just so many ways to explore, individual and cultural differences in research. So that kind of thread through everything, right, of the diversity. And I think there's a lot happening in our field with that. So it's
absolutely. Really what's really cool is, the way you describe it, you get to see kind of the fruits of your engagement with them early on in the program around issues of diversity, kind of through their full kind of student development cycle, from their first year through defending their dissertation. That's a really cool aspect of what you do.
It is really, really cool. I feel really fortunate to witness that growth over time.
Yeah.
It's just really cool.
Yeah, it's a real privilege, isn't it?
It is. It is.
So you touch on this a little bit in your last answer, but I'm curious, how do you see the work that you do impacting the students and even maybe more broadly the community of Chicago?
I think it has a great impact on the community, and I'm thrilled about that. I can say, like, for me to change from really being a clinician practitioner to teaching and wondering, am I going to have the same impact? I feel like it's so much bigger, right? Because they have so many students, and I know that our students really value diversity, right? And are looking for that kind of in everything that they do. And they work in so many different domains across the whole Chicagoland area.
Yeah.
From community mental health to hospitals, the academic medical centers, college counseling, right? There's just so many places that they're carrying that with them. And
Yeah.
also, learning from the people that they're working with, but taking this kind of message to others that they train with as well.
Yeah.
So I think it gets to have a broad impact, it feels pretty good, right? It's a lot more people
Yeah.
than I can ever see as a individual psychologist.
Yeah.
I feel fortunate.
I was talking about that earlier with another faculty member. It's this idea that when you're in clinical practice, obviously you have a real and meaningful impact from what you do for the patients that come to see you. When you're a faculty member, you get to scale that impact substantially, right? Because
Yeah.
you're training the next generation of clinical psychologists, and then they go out into all of these communities that they're going to serve and have a tremendous impact. And then at some point, they're involved in training other psychologists or mental health professionals. So it's a really neat aspect of what we get to do in higher education with respect to clinical psychology.
Yeah, I feel really fortunate for that. It's just really neat to see.
Yeah. What do you think, based on your time at the Chicago School and having been with another institution prior to that, what do you think makes the program there in Chicago especially valuable or unique for students?
I think, part of what I've been talking about, right, is that thinking about diversity is embedded in everything they do, right?
Hmm.
It's not like, okay, you get this one class, right, and file
Yeah.
that away and remember it. It's addressed in every class, right? We
Yeah.
just think about it across the board that it really is embedded. It's not something separate. I think another really big piece for the Chicago School and the difference I see is this focus on research and how it relates to our practice, right? So early on, getting students to think about research and practice together in our
Yeah.
foundations course, right? They begin to think about their own dissertation ideas, but to really look at research and think about, as we're practicing, how do we utilize all the
Yeah.
research that's been done, the literature, to inform what we're doing, right? That they really understand evidence-based
Yeah.
practice, and then can think about their research in that way, right? These are people that didn't choose to take a research path, right, and get a
Yeah.
PhD, but they're still very much interested in that. And how can we apply it in a way that's going to excite them as a clinician, right? That there's so many things you can do that will be, important for your work as a clinical psychologist who's doing primarily treatment. So I think that's been, I've noticed, right, there's just a strong emphasis on that. And I feel like our students leave like really carrying that. It's just second nature to be looking at the literature and to stay
Yeah.
up on what's happening in the field, right? Not, you don't graduate and think you've learned everything, right? Like we're really
Yeah.
preparing them to be lifelong learners, and always watching what's happening in the field of research.
It's one of the things that I like about the practitioner scholar model, and particularly like the way that you there in Chicago implement that. And the goal of the practitioner scholar model was, I think, always to prepare great practitioners, obviously, but to do it from an evidence-based perspective, and being able to bridge that gap between the research and the practice is so critical, and something that I think you and the faculty there in Chicago do a great job at.
Yeah, we have so many opportunities. And my colleagues are doing they have such diverse areas of interest, right? The students
Yeah.
can really find lots of different things
Yeah.
to really learn this firsthand and see, okay, what's it like to put this into practice? Many of them will engage in a research project their first year.
Yeah.
And that gets them really excited, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, the dissertation can be something enjoyable. It's not
Yeah. I
all,
can do this. I can do this.
yeah, yeah.
What advice would you give to a prospective student, someone who's, looking at the possibility of joining a clinical psychology doctoral degree program?
I would say to, think broadly.
Hmm.
Um, just think, when it comes to our field, and like to not let themselves get kind of pigeonholed into something. Sometimes students come in and they say, this is the track that I'm on. I want to do this, I want to do that, and this is the kind of therapy I'm going to do. Or I say, just let yourself like really explore.
Yeah.
Don't close yourself off, because there's just so many different things you can do in clinical psychology. I
Oh
always
yeah.
say, like, you will never get bored in our field.
Yeah.
If you find yourself like not loving something, there's so many other things to try, right? So to not get stuck, not figure out what their niche is too early.
Yeah.
Just try as many different things,
Give
and see
yourself
what
a chance
fits
to
for you.
explore.
Yes, I think people are surprised when, it's nice like that they take all of the intervention, all the basic intervention classes, right? We don't stick to one model. You have
Yeah.
to learn them all, and then you can see, okay, what fits for you and
Right.
what fits for your client, right? Which may be different depending on the setting they're in.
Absolutely.
That's just, one example. Some people will think they don't want to do assessment. They do want to do assessment. They figure out, hey, they like some other things too,
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. You think, oh, I don't want to do assessment. Then you go through the courses, you do a few assessments. You're like, maybe I do like this after all. This is kind
uh,
of a fun aspect of it.
yeah, once they see all that rich data and how you put it together, right, and get that full
Yeah.
kind of clinical picture of somebody, it's like, oh, that's very different than, just asking questions and scoring tests.
Yeah.
I think it really can change people's minds once they have the experience.
No doubt. I know that was my experience as well. Well, Dr. Childs, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed our conversation and appreciate your participation.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.